Folks, we're back. Season 2, episode 3. We're still just getting to know how this works. We're still just trying to work out that when the microphone's on, the microphone is on. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are working on or discussing the problem of how to be practical in challenging times. As you've already heard, my good friend and host, I'm not cutting that out, by the way. We're going to keep that bit. The business world is screwed. It says from the doyen of business over there. I'm not quite sure what it's in relation to, but we'll dive into that a little bit further before we get into that, to today's topic, practical in challenging times. Darren Pratley, welcome to the show, season 2, episode 3. You've survived the cyclone, the internet's still working, and here we are.
It's incredible, like just to be able to have that big pile of weather pour into New Zealand and affect the country as it has, and I got stuck on flights and off flights and stuck in Christchurch where I shouldn't have been and rescheduling appointments and events and stuff. So it's been a pretty crazy time, but mate, it's good to be here.
It just seems as though we can't get a break. Either something's going on in New Zealand or something's going on here in Australia. It is a world of chaos at the moment. When we think back to how calm and predictable things were prior to COVID.
Yeah.
Like, it was easy street. Like, there really wasn't a lot going on. I mean, we had bushfires in Australia and they were serious and devastating for a lot of people, but it was sort of, rural coastal area. It wasn't sort of in the main hubs. Didn't disrupt anything in the main hubs. But then COVID hit and the world's gone bananas since then on so many different fronts. And I think it gets to a point where sometimes you start looking at the crazy conspiracy theorists on TikTok, and I'm starting to buy into them a little bit. They're talking about cloud seeding and storms and all this sort of stuff, and I'm like, man, the evidence is mounting, Darren. The evidence is mounting.
So the reason why I was a bit grumpy at the start was just I got a text message. I got a text message from a client, right? And the client said to me, Darren, confidentially, can you please come and do a session with me personally, and runs a pretty big business, and I'm really struggling for a plan and knowing where I need to go and what I need to be doing right now, and my motivation is really low.
That's it. They've got change fatigue.
It is just everywhere, and that's a common thought that's out there right now, and the number of businesses that I go into on a weekly or monthly basis at the moment, and just hearing this message and just like going, we cannot leave people sitting in the space. It is not good, and it's certainly having a major effect on the performance of our businesses, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think it is. It's evident. It's there. It's definitely out there. It's not people being lazy. It's not.
Sorry, what?
It's not people being lazy. I don't think it is, Darren. I think it's too easy to put it in that category. I think what it is that the challenging times that we're talking about, the last 2 or 3 years, we've gone from bushfires to floods to pandemics to cyclones. Yep. They're just so tired in reinventing themselves. Now, the way out of it, in my opinion, is to get those small wins. You go back to your favourite guy. He's got Darren up and about at the moment, David Goggins, who was recently in Australia, and he'll say, just get out there and give yourself some wins. It's the most motivating thing you can do. If brushing your teeth in the morning is a win, do it. If making your bed is a win, do it. If making 2 out of 20 calls is a win, do it. But the next day, make sure you do 3. Make sure you brush your teeth twice. Make sure you make your bed sooner or earlier, and set your alarm clock earlier and get to work half an hour earlier. They're all wins, and I think this is where people are getting fatigued, is that the wins aren't coming as easily as they used to. The work is having to be done, and they're looking for hey, I've done 6 months of work, now I want it to go back to easy street. And any of us who are in business through the GFC know that that's not how it works.
Is,
I mean, you've got a decade.
if you go back in time, mate, where was Easy Street? And this is the bit that I get a little bit challenged by, is this concept that there is an easy street, right? And I just go, actually, the world's changing at a rate of knots now. The speed of life is different. The focus and the direction of your customers is changing. The knowledge base that they play off now and the access to information is way higher than it's ever been. So there's no, for me, there is no easy street. It's about building your clarity of what you need to do to get your result at the level that you want. And I think this whole concept of, look, there's a magic bullet here, and this is the one you need, or this is the magic secret key, and pay $29.95 over 6 months and you get it. I mean, it's just not realistic, mate. I was struggling with it.
I think, look, you're going to cut me down here, but that's why we do the show, because we have different points of view. I think from 2012 to 2019 was easy street. Now, that doesn't mean you didn't have to work. That doesn't mean that if you
went busy,
if you worked harder, you didn't get rewarded. In fact, the people who worked the last 10 years hard, man, they're not working anymore.
Smashed it.
Smashed it, right? But if you wanted to cruise a little bit and put yourself into semi-retirement while your better halves are off working full-time for someone else, you could pretty much survive and still make a good income the last 10 years doing that. There was money. In Australia, I used to say it all the time. Like, people would whinge and go, lucky you're in Australia, a country where anyone with half a brain can make a lot of money as long as you put in the work. And New Zealand, I think, is much the same. Both very easy countries to make money if you need it. And that still is true today. It's just that it's a bit harder than what it was 7 or 8 years ago.
Agreed. And I think the thing is for us is that there is some challenging times, right? And I think this is with today's topic is, in terms of what are the practical things that we should be doing in these challenging times, because, these challenges right now are real. And I'm not dissing that. I'm not someone who's saying that there isn't real challenges, because there are. And there's some of this stuff is really tough. And when you see, for here in New Zealand right now, some people have had their house flooded. Some people have had their businesses demolished. Some people have had hillsides collapse into their backyard. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happened, and those are the events that you just go, man, that really does test your resolve and pushes you pretty tough, right? But this is the bit where I think actually having some practical tips in these challenging times is actually really important for us to reference, in terms of where we are in our businesses at the moment and what are we doing with them. And I think these are a good topic, mate. Real good.
Yeah, I think we really have to give the business lessons. How do you come out of a disaster? And they say it all the time. One person's disaster can be another person's picnic. You know what I mean? It depends who you are, and it's all relative to where you are. And with mental health issues and all those sorts of challenges, someone can look normal on the outside. They can speak the speak, talk the talk. Internally, without you even knowing it, they could be right on the edge. And, anyone that's feeling that at the moment, all I can do, and Darren, you'll back me up here, is just go and seek help. Go and speak to somebody who's qualified to speak to.
Totally.
Because you get yourself off, and I don't think you and I are either professing to have the answers to that sort of stuff, but, the help is out there. We can put the links below for that. But I think what we're talking about is the people who are starting to get a little bit distracted by the headwinds rather than just biting down a little bit harder and fighting through them. And that's what we want to give you today. We want to give you the practical tips that it's so easy to get distracted and caught up in the hype of disaster. It's so easy to go and just raise the white flag up the flagpole and say, well, News Corp told me that these are challenging times and that property prices are dropping by 40%. So you know what? I'm not going to play today, and I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait until after Easter, until Rupert Murdoch tells me that the game's back on again, because he's a real estate expert. well, the people he hires, they're apparently real estate experts or financial service experts or banking experts or recruitment experts. Oh, we lost you. Bless you. Just a
That's right.
sneeze there. There is a mute button on that microphone, I'm pretty sure, but that's okay. We'll get past. For the people listening on the podcast, I'm just giving you a visual description that Darren leant over and let out the biggest sneeze. It was a bit like Scooby-Doo used to sneeze. It was hilarious. You got to watch it on the... Jump over to the YouTube channel at about the... just let me tell you, about the 10-minute mark. You'll be able to see the visual.
Carry on.
Fantastic. So I think here are the tips. Here are the tips. Practical steps that you can take in challenging times. To get you going again, to get that mojo, to get that movement. You don't have to hit home runs every day in these times. I'll say it again. Chris Henry, the head of River Real Estate up in Newcastle in Australia, he says it all the time. It's time for harvest. Like, don't go out and think you need to be planting new paddocks and new crops with things you don't really know about. Just harvest the paddocks and the crops that you already grown. And that really is about working your network and doing that sort of stuff. So step number 1, Darren, take a breath. And I'm going to take a breath.
And I think this is one that we talk about too, is we've all got these aspirations and we've got these ideas about where we want to be and where we're going and what the opportunities are and what we're chasing. But actually, when things are challenging, just to take a breath and just take the gas off for a bit, because you don't need to have your foot down on that accelerator when you're in a situation where there's some real challenges. You just can take your foot off and let yourself go, actually, I just need to regroup and maybe sort of get some more clarity about where I'm going and what the purpose is through this challenging time.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because I think in challenging times, the natural human behaviors or instincts, and you hear it, I'm hearing it in conversations in my own network and friends group, is, oh, well, times are getting tough, interest rates are going up, let's go get a side hustle, let's go do this, let's go do that. And it's like, really? Go and get a side hustle? What are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to start running an online program. Oh, yeah, so you're going to go and spend the money to build a funnel.
I'm going to go and get a coffee, Jonathan.
A what?
A coffee. I'm just going to go and get a coffee. Oh, I'm just going to take a break for a minute. I'm just going to go and get a coffee.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that people, when they start to get into these challenging times, they load themselves up with more work to do. So I did this. I fell into this in about 2014. I had a PR company. I had a production company. I had this training business. And I thought, you know what, to make money, I have to run all 3. But what I actually ended up doing is I took on too much. Yeah. And I ran all 3 badly. And I had to sit back and take a breath. And I did. I went down to the beach. I took by myself. I took time to sit there and go, which one do I actually want to do?
Yeah.
Which is the one, right? And then just focus on that. Because I can tell you right now, you can start any side hustle in the world, but you'll probably make 5x if you just focused on what you're an expert in, right? And follow the steps we're about to give you, and just squeeze a bit more juice out of the lemon that you already own, rather than grow a new lemon tree.
Great message. Very good. Yep, love it.
And part of taking a breath, Darren, and you've been on this one lately too, is get fit, get sharp.
Yep. And I found, like, last year for me was a really good year of working really hard and racing around all over the place. And probably the person that I didn't look after as well as I should have, especially around health and fitness, was me, right? Because I'm like, I've got to be on a plane, I've got to be here, I've got to be there, I've got this to do, got that to do. And at the end of the day, you get home at the end of the day at 8 o'clock at night, and you sit there and you go, actually, the thing that I want to do is just sit on the couch with a remote and actually just blob out and not talk to anybody, right? Well, you just keep doing that day after day after day, and all of a sudden we're not as fit, we're not as sharp, we put on weight, it's just all that stuff that actually isn't good for us. And I've just taken a wee bit of a lesson out of my own book to take a breath for a moment and actually just get fit and get sharp and just start feeling better about what you're eating and start being more disciplined about drinking enough water and start thinking about how much sleep you actually need and start putting some consistency around that. And it makes a big difference, right? It just helps you start to go, hey, now I feel like I've got a level of energy that and get up and go that I need in these challenging times. So for me, it's been a really good focus and something that I've just started to become really consistent with, and it just because it's now up there on my radar.
I'm going to take some credit with that. I'm just going to steal it from you because I remember when we met in New Zealand in October, we were sitting around and the beautiful Jules was there as well, and it was like I was around you, and for those who don't know, I'm pretty relaxed. I chill out a fair bit, but around Darren, I was like, oh man, I'm not doing enough. I feel as though I've got FOMO. I've got to go harder. I've got to go harder, and I don't even think you were listening to me talking to you. You're that busy. You had your head in doing different things. And Jules was like, no, and he needs to learn from you too. So you two just need to meet each other in the middle, and you'll both be better off.
Yeah.
And she's right. And so find someone that's your opposite, and work out what's healthy for each other, and have a bit of each. And I think that comes with self-awareness too, right? Focus, self-awareness.
Hugely so, but also too for me is, and this is what you and I have discussed, if you want to play a higher game and you want to achieve more and you want to do more, you've got to make sure you have the equipment to be able to go there, right? If you set your plans, I want to go up here, but you haven't got the systems, you haven't got the processes, you haven't got the thought, you haven't got the determination, you haven't got the strength, you're never going to get there. So if you set a target that you want to achieve something that's a lot higher than where you've been before, then actually maybe you might have to do some work before you actually go.
And I think also, we should pretty obvious. We're both middle-aged men, and it doesn't burn. We can't burn off the calories like we used to. We can't survive on the diet of a university student. And food I think plays a big role. So one thing I've changed lately significantly is a lot more real high dense nutrient food. And tell you what, it works a treat. I used to play hockey, and the next morning I couldn't walk for about 2 days. I've changed my diet, and the inflammation responses from playing sport has just dropped right off. I can get up and about, work again, get going sooner. It's so evident. All right, number 2. We've got yourself fit and sharp. You're focused, you're self-aware, you've taken a breath. What are we doing?
The big one for me is then to create the plan. And it's a plan of action, right? And so what I encourage people to have a think about here is talk about short-term plan, short-term targets, short-term achievements. But actually what I'm meaning is actually not on a monthly basis or not on a quarterly basis or not even on a weekly basis. What I'd break that right down to is break it down to a daily basis. Go actually on a daily basis, what is my plan of actions of the things that I want to achieve and what I want to tick off? And I tell you what, one of the things I do in one of my presentations is I get people to actually get their diary out, their electronic diary out right in the middle of the session. And I say, go and have a look through your diary over the last 2 weeks. Have a look through each day and tell me how much white space there is. So how much white space, which is time that we haven't allocated for a particular task, right? It's just time that is burnt up doing stuff that is mostly unintended, right? So what I get people to start to do is say, okay, let's start setting out some short-term tasks, some short-term goals for today, but allocate time throughout the day that you're actually going to spend doing those particular tasks. And as soon as you do this, guess what happens?
You get it done in the time.
You start to get shit done, right? And you start to get the stuff done that you intended to do, not got distracted to do, right? And this is the part for me is that short-term daily plan is really key. And then have a think about it from a weekly perspective. So on a Monday, by Friday, what is my plan? What do I want to have achieved by Friday? And start to be able to build that sense of purpose. Because if you're in challenging times, sometimes you've got lots of distractions coming at you and there's lots of push and pull. But what you've got to do is start pushing through all of that with a clear plan of what you want to have achieved by the end of the week.
And so from a practical point of view, are they building the weekly plan first and then the daily plan of the steps to get there? How are we doing this?
Depending on how challenging the times are, right? So sometimes for me, if it's a really shitty time or things are really struggling, right, just do a day. So at the end of a day, put your plan in place for what you're going to do tomorrow, and just focus on that. At the end of that day, set up the next plan. But then once you've got a bit more of an idea about, hey, what does next week need to look like, then start building that weekly plan. Because as soon as you start becoming a lot more time use focused and being really clear about the things that you need to get done to help you get through this challenging time, all of the other stuff just disappears into noise, right? And it just becomes a distraction. So you can start to become really sharp about what helps you become more successful.
So you've got to work out whether the measure of whether you do your weekly or your daily first is how overloaded you are.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Because I would tend myself to say, okay, what's my weekly goal? What's my goal, my Friday goal? And then work my way back. What are the steps I need to take to get me there?
Yep. And so when you've got an environment that you're kind of in control of, when you're kind of in control of your environment, that's sweet, right? But if you're going through some really challenging times and things are really shit and it's just really tough, the ability for you to be able to go, just let me get through this plan today. Let's just get this plan done today. Build your plan for tomorrow and know when you get up in the morning, you've got purpose and you've got clarity of what you're going to do.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think if we put the layer on top of it that comes from the great Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week. Right? Yeah. He's got this great research about people who work full time for others. They might be at the office for 8 hours a day, but really they're only completing or working for 3 hours of those 8.
Yeah.
And he says, I think he says 60% of the world actually only works 3 hours a day.
Yep.
So if you can sit down and work for 4 hours a day, you're 25% in front.
Exactly.
And it's like, if you're running your own business.
Hey, you and I that are in offices and businesses all the time, is that correct?
Oh, there's a lot of water cooler chat that goes on.
There's a lot of time.
Particularly in football season. I mean, there was a call here in Australia, and you've got to understand that in Australia, we love a public holiday in Australia, and there was a call after the Super Bowl on Monday that because the Super Bowl, and we've got this work from home epidemic at the moment too, where people don't want to go back to the office, and so everyone was starting to go back to the office, but on Monday, because of Super Bowl, no one went back to the office.
Yeah.
And no work was really done, and people ring up the local talkback radio saying, my phone calls have dropped off 80% today. No one's coming into the store. So now they're calling in Australia for the Super Bowl to be a public holiday, so that because it's a waste of time because no one actually does any work, and it's a bit like the other states when the Melbourne Cup's on here, we've got a public holiday for them. The other states don't, but they just don't do any work. So I think this is the plan: is that if you can get up at 8 o'clock and just really focus and smash out till midday, and sort of do it with purpose, and I think you're going to be miles in front. And I think this is a trap for some people, particularly if they work from home now on their own businesses, is that they sort of drift through the day. And I've been guilty of this in the past. Like, you do a bit and then you go and pull some weeds in the garden, and then you do a bit and you go and play with the dog, or you do a bit and you go and talk to the neighbour. You find things to do, and you get to the end of the day and go, well, I was sort of busy. I had a busy day. I did a lot of things, but the actual work component weaved into the other distractions was probably low quality.
Yeah.
Low focus. So I think that's right. Really be, and it's part of that fit and sharp, right? Sharp in the hours that you're locked in. And then when you've done your 4 hours and you want to go do something else, go for a walk, go for a run. Really go for a walk and go for a run. Don't try and work while you're on that walk.
No way. Right? Smash it. Like, go hard. Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
All right. No, and that leads us straight into number 3, which is go to work.
Well, this is the thing, right? And this is we talk about Mr. Goggins all the time because he rings in our ears, right? And this is the piece for me is this whole idea of actually get up and get going, like get out there and go do more work and realize that your capacity is your capacity to do more is way higher than we really give ourselves credit for. And I've been really focusing on this one for me a bit more lately, is just to go, what more do we need to do? What are the things we need to get done? And just try and work that and push that a bit harder. And I think that for me is just getting that clarity of going, actually, we can do more.
Yeah, for those who don't know, David Goggins is he was a guy. I'm pretty sure he was a doctor, and then he decided to become a Navy SEAL, and yeah, David Goggins, 100%. Then he became a
He was,
Navy SEAL.
was a bug sprayer.
Was he a bug sprayer originally?
He was a
Anyways,
bug sprayer, and he had a job where he would go around at nights spraying bugs in restaurants. So he would go and do that, and then he got or saw a television program talking about Navy SEALs on television after he came home from his bug spraying session in the morning with his bucket of Coke and his donuts. And he used to sit and watch TV. And he watched this and he said, I want to become a Navy SEAL. So he went down to the recruitment center, and the guy said to him, well, first you'll have to lose 100 pounds. You'll
amazing.
have to lose before you'll even get into the program of assessment of whether you're capable of doing it. You have to drop 100 pounds. So he basically changed his life and became extremely disciplined around that. But the things that he achieved is just freakish. But the bit that I love about him is his frankness, his directness, and the ability to be able to say, you know, that voice in your head, it's just a whole lot of voice. And actually you need to cut through all that and realize that you've got way more capacity to do more. So I think that's a very cool message for that, really getting out there and going to work.
I'm just having a quick little scan of his Wikipedia, and yeah, he's an ultra marathon runner, ultra cyclist, Navy SEAL, crazy sort of guy. But I just remember listening to a podcast of a guy who he was a multi-millionaire who decided that he was in the midst of his life and he didn't have enough motivation, so he convinced his wife to pay for David Goggins to come and live with him for a month.
I watched it last week.
And it was snowstorms and sleet, and the guy's like, oh, I better go get the fire going, and David Goggins is, no, better go put your runners on. And it's like, but there's hypothermia out there. He goes, only if you run too slow. They'd go and run 20 miles in a snowstorm, and then jump in the dam at the end to cool off or something. It was just madness.
Did you hear his first day? His first day, the guy was lying in bed, and next minute, so he's sound asleep in bed with his wife next to him, and next minute he hears this voice in his ear, it's time to get up. And here was Goggins in his room saying it's time to get up. So he made him get up, go downstairs, and in his garage there was a chin-up bar. And he said, okay, how many chin-ups can you do? So the guy hops on this chin-up bar, does 6 or 7, and he goes, oh, that was pretty tough. And he goes, we're not leaving here until you've done 100.
Yes.
He goes, what? He goes, we're not leaving this garage until you've done 100. So this poor guy had Goggins saying, just let me prove to you that, when you're telling yourself that you can't do one more, you can do one more. And that takes you from 78 to 79. And we're not leaving the garage until there's 100.
Yeah, and that's his thing, right? When the first time that you think it's time to quit, the first time you tap out and go, I'm done, that's enough, you're only 60% done, I think he says.
Yeah.
So you got another 40% left, nearly half. So for the person who confidentially sent you the email earlier that we just accidentally broadcast to air, you're not done. Darren can get you going. He's going to David Goggins you.
But this is
Darren
the piece
Goggins.
I guess go into these people's businesses and I say to them, come on, let's get a plan here of getting some of the stuff and get to work a bit faster, get to work a bit harder. Let's identify these opportunities. And do you know what? Most of the time there is so much opportunity in these people's businesses that they're just not seeing. And I think for me, it's just that one of go to work is just, you really have to consider that and sort of maybe get someone external to have a look at what you're actually doing to help you develop that.
So go to work, you're taking that from David Goggins? I don't recall that being one of his quotes.
No, but I think that's our quote.
No, I think he had something else in there, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, but we can't say that. Like you just can't. It's not. We're general. We're not bringing that swear.
If you're listening to this podcast in the car with your kids, just block their ears for a second. 3, 2, 1. Go to work, motherfuckers.
Oh, I love it.
Right.
Okay. So that's a good one, right? So
Number 4.
make sure you go to work. Number 4 is spend
Learn
some time.
skills.
That's right. More learn, more develop, and more skill set. You've got to develop that stuff more, right? So just work out where you can learn more, develop your skills, develop what you do, and just really push hard on doing more of that. Because I actually truly believe that the more investment you put in this area, the way easier getting through those challenging times becomes. And I think it's, for me, is a really, really good one just to get your head around.
I think especially if you've got time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about the types of challenges, not just mental challenges, but we're talking physical, geographical challenges. If you've got just had a cyclone in your neighborhood, the last thing people want you doing is going around saying, "Hey, would you consider listing your house for sale with me?" Like, that's not what's going to happen right now. If we're going through COVID and lockdowns, the last thing people wanted was, hey, how about you spend money with me? Because you're being insensitive to the actual reality of the moment. So use that time. Like, you've got to let them breathe and take stock and let some normality. Business will come back, but there needs to be some normality in the market. So while you got to take that break, and there are going to be some people in New Zealand in a lot of different businesses that in the next couple of weeks are going to just have to take a break. The thing is, make use of your time, whether that's learning new skills, investigating something new. Like, we're not talking about reinventing the wheel, but just a skill that you can add that's going to make you sharper and more attractive to the market.
Love it. Yep. And I think that's exactly it, mate. That shows you sharper. I love that. I think that's a great positioning piece, because I think these days, I see this all the time. I go into some real estate offices, mate, and people say to me, "Darren, to be honest, mate, I've been in the industry for 25 years. I pretty much know all this." Right. And my challenge with those people is simply this, mate. You've been in it for 25 years, but you've done the same year just 25 times. And the problem with that is you're no better, no stronger. Your business hasn't changed, and you've gradually become irrelevant in the market space, because I've got somebody who's been in it for 6 months who now has trained harder, wants it more, has worked harder, knows the scripting, has got better plans and systems and processes, and they would kill that person who's been in the industry for 25 years. So I just think now it's that have a think about your diary last week, and actually have a look in the time allocation of how much time did I spend to learn more, develop more, and get better skilled more. How much time did you put into it? Because most people would put nothing.
There was something that happened this week that caught my eye in the world of social media.
Go on.
And it was a big real estate brand around the world. And the powers that be of that real estate brand were singing from the rooftops on Facebook that they're going to spend money and develop a television advertising campaign. And I'm sitting there in my mind, because I've worked across both industries of social media and television, wondering, why would you promote on social media that you're going to be running a television campaign if the television campaign's actually going to work?
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to do it.
Yep, good point.
Right? So I'm sitting there and going, well, exactly what you're saying. You've been in real estate for 25 years, but you've done the same year over and over again. These guys, like, I don't know anyone in the media landscape who is looking to spend more on television than they did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
All that we're seeing is lower rent spenders now getting the opportunity to enter the television market.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be getting the returns that the big spenders got 5 years ago.
That's so
it's just
true.
become more affordable. So what I'm saying is that work on yourself, build your own presence.
Yeah, I love it.
Right? We're saying here, learning new skills. Get yourself comfortable on camera. Even if
Yeah,
you don't post the videos, make yourself block it out
just
in
do
your diary to make 3 videos or talk to the camera on 3 different topics for an hour. All right. You don't have to post them, but just practice being comfortable talking on camera.
I'll give you an example of this. So, as part of one of my presentations, I get salespeople to actually record a social media type video clip. And we've done this over about, I don't know, 4 months with this particular office, right? So, this person goes out of the room, records it one. She comes into the room, she goes, "Oh, that was terrible. It was so terrible. I just, I look awful. I'm this, I'm that, I'm X." So, I said, "Right, that's cool. Now get the person beside you to watch it." So what happened now was the next door neighbor sitting next to her had to watch her video. And the next door neighbor said, "That's probably the best video that I've ever seen in the real estate space. You connected with the audience, your messaging was bang on, and you actually showed me that you cared. So that's amazing." And here was a person who recorded it that had a view that it was terrible, yet the audience said it was probably one of the best she'd seen. So the piece is that whole confidence to be able to go, actually, I can record it and actually post it, and I'm not self-analyzing or self-being critical on it, so that I don't actually grow my market. And again, I think that's one of the really valuable skills that you can really develop and spend some time on to improve your result for the future.
Well, here's the scenario. When you're making videos for social media, you're not making them for yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
the human brain is not programmed with the ability to actually hear its own voice back and enjoy it.
No,
It's not what it does.
no.
So that's never going to work. So if you're going to have people assess their own content, no one should ever
Yeah.
naturally be saying that their content is awesome, because
No,
it's not how we're wired. But that
not.
does lead us into point number 5, which is connection. Right?
See how we segue into that. That's just
Man,
that's why we are where we are, mate. That's that
20,
segue.
20 episodes in, and these things just segue. The word segue is just segues together.
More connections.
We're not talking about the wheel things that you stand and go around Google Campus on either. We're talking about the I think it's a Latin or French abbreviation of connecting things.
And the ability for us to be able to, when you're in challenging times, is to actually get out there and reach out more and connect more. Because, especially at these times where things are challenging and it's difficult, actually what you want to do is to get out there and build that network of people that either have a common subject or a common issue or a common problem, and to actually be real with them at that particular time. And you talk about this all the time, about this authentic, making sure that you're authentic in front of your audience. And I think when you're in challenging times, the ability to be able to connect with a much bigger network and to be able to then be real in front of that network is just an absolute opportunity to set up your future.
Oh, I think the word is opportunity.
Yeah,
Challenging times bring opportunity, and they
yeah,
give you a reason to reach out to someone that you don't previously know.
yeah,
Maybe they're in your orbit, you know each other's names that you've never spoken.
yeah.
Challenging times, I think, that can be challenging times in business, that can be
Yes,
challenging times in disasters.
yeah,
Either way, the opportunity is to start the conversation.
one hundred
Now,
percent.
if you're talking, if you're in times of challenging disasters, then make sure that your phone calls related to the disasters. We're not talking about going in with some sort of tissue
Sales
paper.
pitch.
Tissue paper. Hey, how you going, mate? All good. Oh, now by the way, I've just launched a. Do you need any help rebuilding your office? I saw it being washed down the Waitaki River, last night in 20-meter floods. And then you go, by the way, I've got a new program that when you get your team back in your office, I'll be able to teach them how to get more leads. No. It's not none of that. Like, do your research on who you're calling and what sort of trouble or pains they might be in at the moment, and just ask them if they're okay. Just
Yeah,
start that. There's no sell on any of this stuff. It's just being there and showing that you care in a time where
love
care is rare. There you
it, love
go.
it.
How's that for an Instagram post? Care when care is rare.
I'm writing it down now.
Yeah, that'll be coming up on Darren Pratley's Instagram soon. Look for the credit, folks. It won't be there. But yes, you got to connect. And this is the thing. Social media, and I say it all the time, allows you to connect at scale. If you don't want to be ringing people all the time, it all goes down in the comments.
Yeah.
Some people will appreciate you just commenting and having your say and helping them or offering help or reinforcing their point or adding to a discussion on their post. It's almost like a gift. If you put out a social media post and you get no responses, what's that little feeling you get in your stomach when you come back 2 hours later and you're like, oh man, it did nothing. I got nothing out of that. Oh, gee, no one likes me. My insights are useless, blah, blah, blah. If you can actually go to someone else's post and add to it and add value, they appreciate you so much more.
Yeah, totally.
That in the challenging times, you follow a couple of comments up with a phone call.
Yeah.
Say, hey, Darren, it's been great interacting with your social media posts the last couple of weeks.
I noticed.
Yeah. Oh, you noticed? Great. How about, I was just wondering how business was going. How's the market? Any challenges you got at the moment? Where you at?
Love it.
How can I help? How do you think my skill sets could help you?
So this is where that just reaching out and creating more connection points is really an important one. And again, this is one thing that I do is around that whole accountability piece is actually have a look at your diary last week critically and see how many new connections with new people and new potentials that could either help your business or actually refer you to someone that needs your service. How many did you actually reach out to? And if it's not 50, i.e. 10 calls a day times 5, which is 50, then what else have you been doing to create that horsepower? And I think for me, it's a key area that you've got to really focus on. More connections, developing your network, and actually making sure you're real.
But in challenging times, I'll take 10.
Yeah. Good call.
I'll take 10. And the thing is, it's never been easier in the history of the world. Like in the however many billion years that this thing's been spinning around a star, it has never, ever been easier to connect with other humans. I find it hilarious when I get friend requests on Facebook, right? And I look at these friends requests and, it's usually, let's be honest, it's usually some sort of Russian female not wearing many clothes. And I look at it and go, 17 mutual friends. And I go, 17 mutual friends? This is a spam account. Hold on. And then I go in there and I look at who the 17 mutual friends are. And I'm like, yeah, you didn't check out this account before you connected. You just got the friends request and said yes to boost your numbers. Yeah. So it is that easy that these fake and fraudulent accounts are connecting with people all across the world that you as a real human are underestimating your ability to connect using the same tactics as the scammers. So
I love it.
You can connect. And as they say, your network is your you answer it.
Future success.
Net worth. How did we stuff that up? We rehearsed that, folks, before we set
record. I didn't write it down.
All right.
Network is what?
Your network is your net worth.
Yeah, good boy. Nice work.
Another Instagram post. Writing it down. Look at him go. All right, folks. So let's just run through what we've got here. We've got 5 steps. In fact, every episode in season 2 has had to do with 5 steps. So we're making it easier for you. Take a breath. Take a breath. Get yourself fit and get yourself sharp. That is the first step. Number 2, Darren?
Create a plan of action. If it's not weekly, get it down to daily. So give yourself some really clear plans about using your time effectively on the tasks that you actually want. Kids,
block your ears. Go to work, motherfuckers. Get in there and get to work. Stop dilly-dallying around. Stop worrying about all the things that are going on in the world. It doesn't matter that there are UFOs and cylinders and balloons flying over Midwest America at the moment. If you're selling real estate in New Zealand and Australia, it's irrelevant. It's a nice to know and you can catch up with it after
Yep.
everyone's clocked off work at 6 o'clock at night. You can
Let's
catch up
go.
with all that stuff on your phone. Focus during the day when other people are working, you go to work. Number 4?
Learn more, develop more, and think about developing your skills more, because actually in these challenging times, the bit that makes your life better, easier, and grows a better future is your ability to develop you. And I just want you to keep thinking about looking at your diary last week. How much time did you actually spend developing you and your horsepower? So I just really want to push that one, because I think that right now is a really big opportunity to develop that skill set and spend the time where you need to in getting you better.
Yeah, I think it's the new pandemic, white diary syndrome.
Yeah.
You can use
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
White
I like
diary
that.
syndrome. It's all yours.
Thanks,
Patented.
mate.
He's writing it down. White diary syndrome, real clear. And the last one, of course, is connections. Use the time. Maybe at the moment in challenging times, you're getting things done by mid-afternoon. You're getting things done earlier. Or you're actually in the midst of a crisis. You can't use flights. You can't access your network. You can't travel. You can't, do the things that you normally do. That doesn't mean you have a day off. It means you build connections. You use it to do the things that most people are annoying about on LinkedIn. Like, there are people who are hiring foreign virtual assistants to actually annoy the daylights out of people on LinkedIn. Guess what happens on LinkedIn if a real person actually sends a real message? It's like Christmas Day. It's like, oh my God,
Yeah,
a real person.
a real
It's not some
connection.
spam person saying, I've just had a look at your website and I really like the work that you're doing. I've got an opportunity for you to, I get ones all the time on my website saying, on LinkedIn saying, oh, we can help you make videos. I run a video production company, thanks. I think I'm all right on that front. But, if you offer me lead generation or something, I'm going to get spammed with all this sort of stuff now. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. And for those who followed me during the pandemic, I used to have the show called Don't F With Me Fridays, and that was all about me luring in and exchanging with the good folks of LinkedIn spam. And I had some funny conversations. I should bring that back. I really should. It was fun. Hey, and this episode was fun. So
Very good, mate.
all the best to the people of New Zealand. Hopefully you're surviving the cyclone. That it's all gone now. You can finally, you've had so much rain there.
Dry out, mate. Chance to dry out and actually get the world back going again. But it is certainly some challenging times for a lot of people out there. So, hey, if we can just add some basic ideas and some concepts that you can actually apply to help you get through these challenging times, I think it's only the least that we can do. So, really wish everyone out there a chance to get going and get drying out.
And just a reminder, mate, that with all the rain you've had in New Zealand, you're probably going to have to put a little bit of extra chlorine into that cuddle puddle of yours in the backyard. Don't let the spar go green just because of the rain. So
that's right.
Thank you, guys. Season 2, episode 3. We're flying through these, and we're getting great responses across all main podcasting platforms, and of course, the episodes drop a couple of days later on YouTube. So search Blink, BL-INK, Business Lessons from the International Network of Knowledge. I'm Jonathan Crick. He's Darren Pratley, and thanks for listening.
See you later, everybody. Take care.
Peace.